lunchtime meals, sandwiches. What are your thoughts on sandwiches and bread? Bread seems to get hated on. Why do people hate on bread? I understand, white bread full of quite a bit of sugar, but what is your take on sandwiches and bread?
Yeah, so, well, firstly, I'll say that sandwiches are the absolute goat. And it really sucks that they've been demonized. But I get why they've been demonized, because it's this anti like gluten grain thing. And
Mm.
yeah, sure, like if you are celiac, you should definitely not be eating bread, period. But that's not most people. And other people talk about non-celiac gluten sensitivity. Um, I personally probably should read up a little bit more on it and really look into whether I think it's something to think about. I don't think it is at this point, because there's actually a lot of research with self-diagnosed celiacs who it found out that it was just FODMAPs, which is their fermentable sugars that we get in a lot of fruits, for example, right? So it's a bit of a correlation causation type thing, and oh, I've got gluten issues. Makes me bloated. Jenny,
Yeah.
look, you had a whole meat lovers pizza last night, all right? I'm pretty sure you're going to wake up tomorrow and feel bloated. I'm not sure it's the gluten, right?
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, the deal with bread is that if you aren't celiac, almost certainly completely fine.
Mm.
But remember, bread is not always bread. We have different varieties of bread.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
obviously whole grain, well, not obviously, whole grain bread is far more health seeking. It's more nutrient dense. It's got a lot of fiber, and
Yeah.
that's going to fill us up. And it's also it's got it's also good for our gut health and function. Ooh, gut health. I use the buzzword. Whoa.
Totally.
And yeah, you have your wholemeal bread with a bunch of plants in there, salad, tomato, all that sort of jazz. You've got the quote unquote health side of things, so you're getting all those things that are conducive to good health and weight management.
Yeah.
And then also you add some source of protein, and then you've got that sort of component there for muscle, to support muscle size, muscle strength, and muscle recovery. Okay, so we're basically ticking a lot of boxes right there. But the other thing for me is that they're also extremely convenient. They're zero cook most of the time, and they're very tasty.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot going for them. Okay, so there's some other things worth mentioning here. So back to the white bread versus whole grain bread or wholemeal bread. So not always do we want to actually feel full. Not always are we trying to eat less calories. If you are, again, a high level athlete, high energy demand surfer, or you're here in the Ments and you're surfing like 6 hours a day and there's a big swell on and you're just burning through calories, you probably want to have the white bread or even go for a bagel to get more easily digested calories in that aren't going to fill you up. And you could also make an argument that you might want to ramp down the plants a little bit to even further reduce the fiber so you can get those calories in without feeling full and bloated. And it's funny because a lot of dedicated athletes will think, oh, I've just got to eat clean. And, I've worked with CrossFitters who train like 6 hours a day or something stupid, who, when they start with me, they're like, oh, I only eat sweet potato and plain oats. I'm like, hey, for you to eat enough carbs and not be in that low energy availability situation where you're just not eating enough to match your demands,
Yeah.
you're going to have like a freaking 2 kilos of potato a day and like several massive bowl of oats. Like, think how much fiber that is, think how much food volume that is, think how much surface area that is. And that's just, you're for your health, you need to start eating some like quote unquote yummier, quote unquote less healthy carbs.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to consider obviously context here. If you're at a surf comp and you are like a high level surfer, you probably just want to be having a bagel with some ham on it and maybe some ketchup, like for your lunch, or a chicken white bread sandwich. Whereas if you're just your standard office worker, like you surf for an hour and then you're sitting down all day, yeah, still have a sandwich, but just do a bit of multigrain, bunch of plants in it, heaps of salad and whatnot, and maybe don't have like 4 sandwiches, maybe just have one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really depends on the situation, but across the board, I can't really think of anyone who would not benefit from consuming a sandwich unless they're celiac.
Yeah. Brilliant. No, I love that. Love that summary. Yeah, huge advocate for sandwiches. I have them every day. And it's quite a filling, and you can make them really super healthy. Yeah, I just
Definitely
what
can.
what would be um still sticking on the sort of lunch theme, I guess.
Mhm.
Rice and uh, like rice and fish, or rice. Like, what's the go there? Because I know there's differences in types of rice as well.
Yeah, there is differences in rice. So just to sort of backtrack a little bit, I personally think sandwiches, wraps, or like zero cook salads, um, more so the salads being more for those non-athletes who don't have those high energy demands. Um, they're typically zero cook and very convenient, so they do really well for lunch. Whereas rice, in my opinion, doesn't do as well because it requires an element of cooking. So yeah, you have the microwave ones. Okay, sure, that's a viable option. And yeah, a lot of people do meal prep, which is also great. But I just think sandwiches, wraps, and salads just have that edge just because they can be zero cook.
Yeah.
So I just want to just say that. But if you like rice, if you want to have rice, if that's what you enjoy and you can cook it or prep it and that suits you, rice is also amazing. And really, all you're doing is just taking a sandwich and swapping the bread for rice,
Okay.
essentially. Like you've still got the protein and plants,
Yeah.
okay, and then you're just changing the carbs.
Okay.
Now, rice, in terms of the difference between sources of rice, is an interesting one. It's a bit different to say, you're comparing Wheat Bix to Cocoa Pops, or you're comparing white bread to multigrain bread. In that there's not actually that much difference between, say, brown rice and white rice.
Okay.
The fiber content is marginally different. Yeah, brown rice has got like a more intact grain, so it's going to be a little bit more nutrient dense and whatnot. Which but I just don't think the difference is that notable, and really for
Mm.
most people that worthwhile. So even someone who's like not an athlete, and then they say, "Oh, I want to have rice with my lunch or my dinner," and they're like, "Oh, I just don't like brown rice. I much prefer white rice." Like I'm like, yeah, there's no difference. Have whatever one you want. Um, and get like quote unquote your nutrients from your plants and whatnot. So that's sort of the deal with rice there. Um,
Yeah.
in terms of the protein source, it like doesn't matter. Just typically, if it's lean, it's a good idea. Like your fattier protein sources, they're gonna be high in saturated fat, which some people will tell you that's a good thing, but they are literally going against the grain so heavily. There's a consensus of like saturated fat is not good for you long-term heart health, and then you have these like carnivore bulletproof coffee people being like, yes, you should add butter to your coffee, and that you definitely should not do that. I'm pretty sure that's very undeniable at this point in time
Yeah.
in terms of the breadth of research that
Interesting.
and every national dietary guideline on the planet.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you'd want to go lean meat. So don't have salami, have ham. Don't have beef brisket, have like a leaner source of beef, whatever. The one
Okay.
exception, and like if we're talking chicken thigh, chicken breast, like not a huge difference. It's not like a little bit of fat's going to kill you, so don't
Mm.
stress about it. Just don't go having like the full pork crackling on your sandwich sort of thing. The one
Oh.
exception is actually salmon though,
Okay.
because salmon is a different type of fat. It's the EPA and DHA omega-3 fat, so
Yeah.
very hard to get from our diet unless we're consuming oily fish. We can do it; it's just practically a little bit more difficult. So salmon is certainly something that is recommended a
Mm.
couple of times a week. Alternatively, you could take a fish oil supplement. If you're a vegan, you could do an algae-based fish oil supplement, and that's the go there.
Nice. Oh, brilliant, brilliant information there. That's. I've definitely learnt some things there that I didn't really know at all. And that's why we're having this conversation.